Welcome to the 2017 World Dairy Expo. Today's seminar, Who Will Work on American Farms in 2025? The speaker today is Dr. Don Albrecht, a director of Western Rural Development Center. Advancements in technology have led to a decline in the number of farm workers. At one point, agriculture was the largest economic segment of the U.S. population. As farm workers' numbers continue to decline, rural towns, especially farm-dependent communities, feel the effects. This leaves many to wonder who will work on America's farms in 2025. Dr. Don Albrecht deals with challenges facing rural America, including the changing characteristic of farm workers, in his position as the director for the Western Rural Development Center. Albrecht spent 27 years at Texas A&M University and has authored 5 books and numerous articles on rural America. This seminar has been approved for continuing education credits for the American Registry of Professional Animal Scientists and the American Association of Veterinarian State Boards RACE program. Forms are available in the back if you are interested in RACE credits. I would also like to remind you to please fill out the survey at the end of the seminar and to silence your cell phone. Now, let's welcome Dr. Don Albrecht.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay? All right, very good. Okay, it is a pleasure for me to be here. I have thoroughly enjoyed my time here, going around, seeing the exhibits and looking at the cows. I've learned a lot. And let me, as I go through my presentation today, I don't want to just stand up here and lecture. When I have a chance to interact with people like you, I want to learn from you. So I'm going to ask you some questions, and I would like your feedback on some issues and concerns that I'm going to raise, okay? So, a little bit of background about myself. I grew up on a farm. Our farm was diversified. We did have some dairy cows, not very many. This was back in the day. And I spent a lot of time as a kid growing up sitting on a stool milking cows by hand. And decided to go to college after that. Since I had rural America in my blood, and like the announcement said, I've spent my life trying to understand what we can do to help rural America. I grew up in a small town and a farm, and that's what I care about. I spent all those years at Texas A&M studying rural economic development and what's happening to small towns and what we can do to address the problems they're facing. About 9 years ago, I got my current job. What I do is travel around and work with small towns and the residents of those, helping them to understand what's going on and to address some of the economic development concerns that they face. So it is a pleasure to be here. See if I can make this. Oh, our little thing came on again. Okay, I get this. Okay, so this is a little bit about the Western Rural Development Center. It just says that we are trying to assist rural America. Okay, to begin with, I want to talk a little bit about where we came from, the trends in the past in agriculture and rural development, and then spend a little bit of time looking at the future. So this is trends in the farm population. Starts in 1920. And what you see is in 1940 and before, the farm population was greater than 30 million people. At this time, going back in time, this was at least a quarter of the American population. When there was this many farm votes, agriculture had some clout in Congress and what the president did and that kind of stuff. Since the 1940s, there has been a steady, rapid decline in the farm population. You notice my latest number here is 1990. The reason is, after 1990, the farm population was small enough, the census quit counting it. And so the numbers, especially if we, how they define the farm population gets smaller and smaller. Okay, this is trends in the number of farms. And again, none of this is going to surprise you guys. In 1940 and before, there were at least 6 million farms in the country. Beginning in the 50s, again, the decline was rapid until you notice we kind of hit a bottom there in 1992, and it's actually a little bit higher. The reason is it's not because agriculture hasn't continued to production coming from a smaller and smaller farms. It's we started the growth of all these hobby farms and small farms and people making a living doing something else, have a few cows or on the side. And so that's caused these numbers to level off a little bit. Okay, this is average farm size. Same thing, as farms get smaller, as numbers get smaller, the size gets larger. And again, it's leveled off in recent years because there's so many of these small hobby farms. Okay, so all right, this to me is quite amazing. Okay, in 1930, all of the farm work in this country, it took about 23 billion hours. That's a lot of hours of work. In 2012, we were down to 2.5 billion hours of farm work, less than 10% as much. Now, obviously, what's going on is technology, machines are doing more and more of the work, and machines continue to replace human labor in the production process. And that, as I was walking around here today, I see no end in that trend with what's going on, and we'll talk about that a little later. Okay, and obviously with this, each farmer, this is the number of people fed by a single U.S. farmer. 1900, it was 7. And to a large extent, with family sizes in those days, you could feed mom and dad and the kids, and that's about all, because you had 5 kids, that's it, Now it's up to 155. Each individual farmer can produce enough to feed at least 155 people now. So again, we're becoming more and more productive. Couple other trends that we're talking. Not only is our machines replacing labor, but our knowledge and machines are allowing us to be more productive per unit. This is bushels of corn produced per acre. And again, huge increase. From 1930, the average acre in corn produced 20 bushels. Now we're up to 171 bushels of corn per acre. This one, I was 1950. The average cow was producing 5,000 pounds. I think, yeah, we're based in pounds here. That's my cows were doing that much. They were doing pretty good as I was milking them by hand there. Now it's up to over 22,000 pounds per cow. Each cow's producing more than 4 times more each cow than they were in the past. That, to me, that's kind of mind-boggling. But you can see your efficiency and the knowledge and technology that we have. So that's the direction we've been going for decades. Less and less labor required, and becoming more and more productive. Okay. Now, this is the number of farms by farm sales class. And, this is, and what you see here is that of this 2.1, 2.2 million farms in this country, half of them, 50% of them, have farm sales of less than $10,000. So, this is pretty much kind of the hobby farm thing. Another 30% have sales between 10,000 and 99,000. Up here at the top, only, and keep these numbers in mind when we go to the next one, only 4% of the farms have sales of $1 million or more. Another 4% have sales, and this is gross farm sales, of between $500,000 and $1 million. So 8% of all the farms have gross farm sales of $500,000 or more. Then we go to here, and what we see is, the 50% of the small farms produce 1% of the production. So half the farms are producing 1% of what we grow. The 4% of the farms with sales of $1 million or more are producing 2/3 of our farm output. And another 14% comes from the 4% with $500,000 or more. So 8% of our farms are producing over 80% of what we grow. That surprise you guys? No. I see a lot of heads shaking no. That's and so, to me, in my job working with rural development, this raises two separate and distinct questions. Okay, and so we have the one sector, this 50% of the people who have the little hobby farms and stuff. It's probably contributing to the family income. Most of their income is coming from something else. They're school teachers, they have a job in town, all this kind of stuff, but what they're doing on the farm, it enhances their quality of life. Plus, it contributes some to the family income, which they need. So this is jobs in rural America, and about 2/3 of the jobs are in the service sector. Okay, let me define that just a bit before we go on. We can basically split the economy into two sectors. One is the goods producing sector, and the other is a service sector. The goods producing sector is they make something you can touch. So my shirt, milk, cheese, hamburger, beef steaks, all of those kinds of things. If you're lumber, furniture, if you're making something like that, if you're making chairs, manufacturing, that's a good producing sector. The service sector are those who are producing a service. It's something you can't touch. Somebody that cuts my hair, somebody that entertains me, those types of things. That is the service sector. The U.S. economy is more and more becoming based on the service sector. Even in rural America, this is rural America, 2/3 of the jobs are in the service sector. And then only 7%, and this is rural America, this isn't urban America, only 7% of the jobs in rural America are in agriculture. So that's the trends that we're dealing with. So given this, once upon a time, the way to rural prosperity, back when I started A&M, this is what I used to preach. The best way to rural prosperity was to improve farm prosperity. Things are changing with such a small proportion of the people involved in agriculture. I would say it's flipped. To a large degree, farm prosperity is now dependent on rural prosperity. We have all these people that have to have off-farm jobs. You need a viable, vibrant rural economy that's providing these jobs for people to, a lot of cases, to make it in agriculture. You have to have these viable, vibrant off-farm jobs that you depend on. Anybody have any thoughts here? Definitely exceptions. Tell me. Okay. Okay. Sure. Yeah. And, my time in Texas, I spent a lot of time up in the Texas Panhandle. Same thing up there. Lots and lots of corn, lots and lots of cows, not very many people,
One time, Southwest Kansas was basically beef cattle, and now they've got huge dairy herds there too.
Yep.
Yeah, but it's still.
And we were talking, like, got some friends from Texas. We were when I was at A&M, up there was a lot of beef feedlots kind of thing. Now a bunch of dairy cows are going into the Texas Panhandle too. So, yeah. Okay, I was gonna talk about that in a minute, but since you brought it up, why? Why?
Because the supplies and the things are not there anymore in the small town, and it's not economic.
Right. The businesses get to make a living.
Okay, so
But it can be the other way around too, because if we as farmers quit buying at our local stores, then we can make a living out of this here. So we as farmers or community have to support our local buyer parts as a whole. Yeah,
Okay.
but we still have to quit doing, so we should support them, because when they go away, they will never come back. But
Yeah.
that's two sides.
okay, and I'm going to talk about this very issue in just a minute, but I got one slide in between. So to me, we got two distinct questions that probably follow different policy issues on how we deal with them. Number one, how do we enhance the productivity of farms through sound research, sound policy, getting the research and policy to help you guys so that you can be as productive and efficient as you possibly can. Looking around here, I see lots and lots of good steps in that direction, but it also requires, like I say, sound research, sound policy to help you get to that point. We're here talking about maybe those 8% of the farms we're talking about that are most productive. How do we, because it's vital, in my opinion, that the U.S. remains on the forefront of this kind of thing, that we continue to have the most productive farms in the world. And then question number two, how do we enhance the prosperity of rural communities and their residents? So so I spend a whole lot of time going around, going to rural communities all over the country. I've spent a lot of times with mayors and county commissioners, and I look at the numbers and I see this. The economy in a lot of rural communities is struggling, and it's because employment in the traditional primary employers of rural America has gone down. We talked about agriculture, how the number of jobs is declined. But agriculture, the natural resources industries, mining, logging, these kinds of things, manufacturing, we could spend a lot of time on that. And before I get to retail, let me just mention a thing or two about these other things. So the trends that we talked about in agriculture. I visited a logging community in Oregon. And, back when I was a kid, you'd walk into the woods with a chainsaw and cut down a tree. And now they, watch a video of this. They have these big machines that reach up. It's like fingernail clippers. They reach down, cut the tree, just clip it, take the limbs off, cut it into 16-foot sections, pick it up, put it on the truck. One guy with one machine in 5 minutes can do what a whole crew would have taken him several days to do. So it's technology replacing human labor and becoming much more productive. Manufacturing, a couple months ago, I was here in Wisconsin and went out to a small town, went to a manufacturing plant. 1990, this plant had 290 employees. Today they got 29, and they're producing more than they did before, because they got modern technology, fancy machines, all that kind of stuff. That's a lot of jobs that have gone away. Retail, this is the next one. The next few years, we're going to lose millions of jobs in the retail sector. We started talking about you guys getting your parts somewhere else because you can't go to the store anymore. Just as an example, when I moved to Logan, Utah 9 years ago, there were 2 bookstores. How many are there now? 0. How come? Okay. When I buy a book, I buy it on Amazon. And a lot of the things that we buy, we buy that way. So consequently, the retail jobs in the town are going away. Amazon employs some people. They employ them in the cities primarily, where the hubs are, the centers. And also the latest data I've seen is that for every 10 jobs that were in the Barnes & Noble bookstore that used to be in my town, Amazon can do it 4 jobs. And so there's a net reduction of 6 jobs when we go from the local bookstore to buying things on Amazon. And you and I buy more and more things through Amazon, online, that kind of stuff. What I have seen over the years, any job that requires repetition, is repetitive, is going to be replaced by a machine. Okay? When I was sitting on my stool milking cows, okay, that's repetitive. That's been replaced by a machine. Any job that is repetitive is going to be replaced by a machine. Keep that in mind. These trends are going to continue. Okay. So the question I deal with every day is, what are these rural communities going to do when all of these jobs are being replaced? Next we got self-driving cars and long-distance trucks being driven by themselves. What are we going to do? Yes, sir.
How do you describe what category are you putting rural communities in? Is it a community of 100 people, or 2,000, or 1,000, or 30,000?
You bring up a difficult... Okay, so I spend a lot of time hassling with USDA and other... Every single agency has a different definition, and so I kind of use a general thing. When I do analysis, if you look at my books and stuff, generally I do a metro, non-metro division. And the way they define it there is a metro community is a county, or county that's economically dependent on it, where there's a central city of at least 50,000 people. And so, you get Dane County, where we are now, is metro. And yeah, where I grew up is non-metro. What county do you guys live in? Is that Wichita Falls? Oh, Wichita Falls in what county is it in? Okay, so Wichita County, where Wichita Falls in, would be metro. Where these guys live would be non-metro. That's kind of where I make the division, draw the line. Okay. Okay, and what Springfield? Okay, yeah. So most of that would be non-metro, and so those are the regions that I'm interested in worrying about. Okay. Now, I think part of the solution arrives, and I'll just throw this up. This isn't mainly what I'm here to talk about, but I'll throw it out anyway. To me, the hope and the solution for rural America is that Amazon is killing jobs, but at the same time, technology has diminished the importance of distance. That you can live in southwest Missouri and you're connected to the world, and you can market your... Right. In some cases. I'm to some rural counties where cell phones are worthless because they don't work there. That's a whole other issue. But generally, that is the advantage that rural America has that they didn't have in the past. Is no matter where you are, you can be connected to markets worldwide, kind of thing. All right. So let's get to a couple of important questions. Who will work America's farms? The title of my thing is in 2025. I've got my crystal ball, but I want your crystal ball as well. Okay. First of all, the people who are the principal operator tend to be relatively old. Average age 58.3. About over 60%, 2/3 of them are 55 years old and older. Let me ask you, when these guys and girls retire, what's going to happen? Who's going to take over for them? I don't know the answer. You guys tell me. Okay. Is that I think in some cases I see, I visited families where the kids say, I want to live in the big city, you know, and so they don't want to stay on the farm. What?
I've talked to several families here, one from Iowa and other places where the next generation doesn't want to do it.
Okay.
So,
Well, my family's the other way around. I have 3 kids and they all want to stay.
Is that those three right?
And they're not even involved in the dairy, but they do want to stay.
Okay. I think there's enough that want to stay, and the next generation is something. Okay. And there are a lot of people that do prefer to live in rural America. You know, yes, sir.
Is your breakdown here, is that the pool of all farms, or is that?
This is the principal operator.
Okay, no, but in terms of what we were talking about, the very
The-
representation,
This is all farms,
all farms, rather than not just that.
not just the 8% of the big ones.
Right, okay.
Yeah. So I think that's, you know what, I should have, which I can do. I can get that put together. You had
I would like to say something.
okay.
So we're from North Dakota, and my age group, to try to get into agriculture, primarily farming, is nearly impossible unless someone gives you a huge chunk.
Be-
Of my classmates, I think there's one that who's gotten like half on his dad's farm. Besides that, everyone else has an 8 to 5 job, usually. And then they try to farm on the side.
Okay. Very good.
The barrier to entry is so high.
Okay, and we're going to talk about in a minute. Yeah, the barrier is high, and as we've gone more and more to technology, the costs consequently increase, which makes the barrier even tougher. So how do you overcome that unless you're inherit it?
I don't know. Yeah. It's a different job, and you work your nights and weekends trying to get a quarter here and there. Pretty much what everyone's doing.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Can we overcome it? I would propose that when I started back in the 80s, there are more opportunities today because it was back then. Because we know more, there's more ideas out there. And there's a lot of, there's a fair number of, maybe not the most viable dairy operations, but viable dairy operations that we acquired very recently. And people just get started, but they have to have the drive, and passion to do it.
Running a dairy farm is you know, I mean, there's no days off.
A lot of money out there, it's hard to get.
Yeah.
There's a lot of money available. Vendors are all flush with cash. They all want to make money. So it's difficult for the ones to get those funds for our program. It's just, you have to want it that bad. You have to
Okay. And you said there's programs out there. This is where I think one of the things that I talk about a lot is we need policies that make these programs available to help the young people get.
The problem with that is policies always focus on small farms, and they force those people into a situation that's not economically viable. They need to let
So-
them breathe, they need to let them grow, they need to let them imagine, and
Yeah.
attain the possibilities. And those policies that are in place now don't do that.
So we need change.
Government policies. But
Yeah.
there are banks that have decided that they will have a certain amount of funds they'll put towards the farm programs and stuff like that. So they're going to have policies over there.
Okay. Yes, sir.
I can imagine a future in which many large farms are owned by LLCs and people are simply hired to run.
Okay. All right. I see the trend more and more in that direction. I saw a hand here.
If all the people, we know they're all getting older, there's fewer are going to be on the farm, and the population is growing at a fast rate. Who's going to feed these people?
Okay. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute too, that, we hear a lot about the importance of being food independent as a country. And a lot of the things we do are actually making it more difficult to achieve that, of being food independent. And the question you raised, who's going to feed these people? I think that's a vital question. Okay. All right. So this is just my crystal ball. I think a lot of so when we go towards 2020, a lot of the existing trends will continue. We're going to continue to see a large number of hobby farms, and I think in a lot of cases, it's people who want to be in farming in many cases. They can't afford to make and so they get a little thing on the side, hoping to expand it, have an 8-to-5 job somewhere else, that kind of stuff, okay? 2 of my brothers are work in the city, have somebody do a lot, but they fit in this. They want to keep their fingers in the pot kind of thing. But I see production increasingly coming from a small number of large commercial, very efficient, very, very productive farms. All right. When we look at these large commercial farms, and I need your opinion here, 60% of the labor is provided by hired workers. What we know about these hired workers, majority of them are born abroad, and most are believed not to be authorized. You guys see that? Okay.
Yes, I'll look at that. Yeah, there's 15,000 on the for that, and all of our workers are Hispanic. I don't agree with the bottom one. It's not most, but there are, we all know, that in this country, and it's not only the agriculture. Look in your hotel, who's cleaning your rooms? I looked around like this couple of days, it was all Hispanics. Not
Okay.
a single white person was cleaning a room. It was a big group. So it's not only,
It's not only agriculture, sure.
It's restaurants, it's hotel rooms, it's
Okay.
construction. And we should also not think that it's a U.S. problem or situation. We varied in the Netherlands and in Canada. In the Netherlands, it was Eastern Europeans
Yep.
milking cows. In Canada, it's Filipinos milking cows, and here it's Hispanic. So it's not a problem. We have to just
We're-
find a way
we're-
to do it right.
We're all looking for a low-wage labor source.
So we're looking for somebody that's willing
Somebody that's willing to, when I was in
We're not looking for, I think we pay higher than what's being paid in Carrington,
at the service.
retail.
Okay.
We pay more per hour, so it's not, we're looking for somebody willing to do the job.
Willing to
We're
work.
not looking for low wages.
Okay.
That's
When,
another thing we have to,
okay, very, very good point.
educate people about.
Thank you. I appreciate that. When we were in Texas, we had a hailstorm come through, wrecked our roof. When is July? If you ever been on a roof in July in Texas, miserable job. So who was on the roof? It wasn't me. Yes, sir. Somebody had a hand up back here. Okay. All right. So with uncertainty regarding immigration, regarding being able to find people to do the work, many farms are vulnerable to labor shocks. Whether I'm in California or Idaho, Washington, in the apple, it doesn't matter. There is a great deal of concern that immigration uncertainty What are we going to do to harvest our crop or for the labor thing? The consequence for the consumer is increased costs. Some food items are going to cost more, and threaten supplies of some products. Okay. Any comments or thoughts here? Okay. To me, farmer reaction is going to be, to the extent possible, increased reliance on technology. That I visited a local farm near where I live now that's gone to robots, dairy farm, and asked him the reason why, and he says because he is not sure he can get somebody to milk his cows tomorrow morning, and so he's going to depend on technology, so he doesn't have to mean that. And going back to your point, when you put more and more money into your machines, the cost of entry becomes greater, and your economies of scale, it forces you to become larger, to pay for this technology you're putting in. And so I think this leads to more of the trends that we've been talking about that have been occurring in this country for 100 years. Okay? Let me show this here, and then oh gee. Okay, so it appears to me that what we have is that what we're coping with is to a lot extent, our farm policy is driven by the non-farm sector that outnumber the farm sector by a whole lot. We were talking before it started that rural America still has an extra share, a little extra power in the decision-making process, when a state like Wyoming or North Dakota or South Dakota has equal representation in the Senate to California. But nevertheless, a lot of the decisions being made are driven by the non-farm sector because they outnumber the farm sector so much. We have certain ideas that we would like to achieve in this country. I hear talked about a lot. One is food independence. We would like to be, dependency is vulnerability. If we're dependent on somebody else to provide our food, we are vulnerable. We are dependent upon them. We want a healthy and nutritious diet for all, but it seems like a lot of times the policy agenda goes against what we are trying to achieve. And I think a lot of that goes back to the point that policy is to a large extent driven by the non-farm sector. Any thoughts here? Yes.
Yes, I have. Speak to what the gentleman said about who's going to feed the people. I personally believe that agriculture in this country has the ability, the knowledge, everything to provide food for people in this country. But as you say, the non-farm sector is determining that they want grass-fed milk, non-GMO, all natural, 10 things. We've got the healthiest dairy products in the world, but they still want it to be like grandma and in red wine, but at a really good price.
But at the same price okay. And in my travels and my interaction with people, I think what I see is we have a large segment of this country that has no clue where their food comes from. They think milk comes from the grocery store. They have no clue where their energy comes from. It comes from switching on the light, I think we need to do a much better job, and I don't know how to do this, much better job of helping people understand. I see advertisements out there and appreciate it, that if you ate this morning, thank a farmer, this kind of stuff. We need to do, and I don't know how we do it, we need to do a better job of helping people understand the issues you guys are dealing with and understand what we need to do to. I agree completely. We have the ability, the knowledge, the land to feed everybody in this country quite easily, actually, if we were allowed to do it. We need to inform the country so that we can actually do that. And that's what I do. I try to help people understand what you guys are dealing with, and let the world know that.
I'll say one more thing, and then I've said my part. The problem we have is people like yourself and Albrecht universities and dairymen. I mean, dairy people and other farmers are spending so much of their time trying to educate the people in their local community about what the job they do. People get their information on Facebook and their friends and whatever, instead of really solid information.
Yep. Yes, sir.
How do you do your educate people? She kind of led into it, but how do you go about educating non-farm public about what you do?
Okay. And let me say at the beginning, I don't do a very good job because of what we've been talking about. So my office, Western Rural Development Center, we put out a publication. We put out policy briefs. And my colleagues, and so what we do is we put out their two-page front and back with the understanding that policymakers don't have the attention span to read more than that, and so we've dealt with issues like immigration and farm labor. We find experts to help us put those together that kind of lay out the problem in a simplified way. The problem is. Those are read by people who are kind of in my circle, who think like me, to get them. And we put out a publication that's called Rural Connections, where the idea is to get smart people to put together ideas on different things and get them out to people. I've written some books that deal with some of these issues. When I look at how many books I sell and who reads them, again, I'm not reaching who I need to reach. Is that so? How do I do it? I've spent, my whole career trying to, and I need ideas on how to do better.
I was in kind of a high-end meeting about this very topic here.
Okay.
And they were discussing people trying to do what you do, but more easy, and saying about how many failures they had. And this doesn't work. And they went out and they did a bunch of surveys, and they found that the average, say, soccer mom, would believe her friends on Facebook long before she believes any scientist.
Yep.
It's just impossible to connect to those people in traditional ways. So they are reaching out on social media to try to, basically get these issues out to the mothers of the country.
Okay.
Your policy letter doesn't go there. Like you said.
Right. And
It's got to be on social media where the people are.
yeah, my
This is where they get their news, it's where they get their information, and they get it from people who don't know anything. It's an opinion, it's not a fact.
exactly.
President Obama was absolutely the best at pounding it into everybody that opinion is fact. And it's not. It has
Yeah.
nothing to do with science.
Excellent point. Thank you.
We have to find some way to attack marketing, everything, like, there's a lot of going on about gluten-free stuff now. You look at a package, say, of maybe tuna or something, and on the tuna package, there's the gluten-free on it. Well, where does the gluten come from in the tuna?
You're exactly right.
There's attacking marketing people and they get to do stupid stuff like that.
Yeah, and okay, I'll get to. I go to a fast food restaurant that has Angus beef. you take the skin off them, and I don't think anybody could tell the difference, but still, somehow it's supposed to be better that way. Yes, sir.
You gotta figure out a way to make agriculture more entertaining.
Okay, how do we do that?
A movie, a novel, a TV program, in which you get into the details of agriculture.
And where it's going to be seen by millions kind of thing. Okay. Yes, sir.
It's not just Facebook that is shaping public opinion. There's been teaching, if you go back and look at the whole low-fat kind of issue, and the teaching that has been going on in that's not been coming from Facebook kind of people. That's been coming from people who are supposed to be fairly schooled and knowledgeable in this whole thing. But what you have discovered is that teaching has had a lot of holes in it. And now there's a hole in the thinking that says that butterfat and butter is a very important ingredient in our diets. And we should be paying attention to those kind of natural kind of products rather than believing what somebody is teaching us.
Yeah. Okay. As you guys figure this out, let me know. And if you want to partner with me to make the movie that's going to be seen by millions, there's, it could be done. A real good movie about.
Who's going to do the work here now, 2005?
Machines. I don't know.
And guest workers.
And yeah. Okay.
Absolutely, guest workers.
Yep. I agree. Yes, ma'am.
The ag and classroom movement is reaching children, and
Okay.
that reaches to the parents. And
Getting kids very, very young to at least understand some of these things. Yeah.
and so gaining access to get into classrooms, into schools.
Okay.
Is the key. And so any of us in the community maybe has an obligation to connect with our local schools to say this is a viable program, because there is some resistance to going into schools. They say, oh no, our curriculum demands we have this X amount of time, we don't have any time for anything else. Well, Ag in the Classroom doesn't ask teachers to do anything different, just using agriculture as the medium
Yeah.
for curriculum.
Even things like one of my grandkids, they grew a tomato in the classroom, and just to watch this plant grow and get blossoms, and I mean, that was so exciting to those, to kind of understand where it came from. Yes, sir.
There is a community out there called Farmland. A friend of mine goes out and does seminars too. Her name is Kim Bremer. Probably look her up.
Okay, how are we going to get millions more people to watch that?
They do have it set up for school curriculum to use it as a teaching tool.
Okay.
She's actually over on the second level of the Coliseum. She has a table set up where she was.
Oh, okay.
People about different things there. So,
Okay. All right. Well, anybody else have any thoughts? Yes, sir.
You mentioned, the reason I asked about the size of the city you're talking about, or community, is I would agree that the towns of, there's probably not a lot of jobs.
Right.
But when you get into towns of a couple thousand, or, even 10, 20,000, for sure, everywhere you go, there are farm signs.
Yeah.
You can't get people hired, it's not just in agriculture, it's everywhere. Tire shops can't get people hired, welding shops. Talk to a manufacturer here that builds headlocks. He desperately needs 10 guys right now, he's about
I was in a,
You talked about their farms around the world, the Netherlands, Canada, different immigrants that are doing numbers. I had a chance to tour some farms in South Africa. 30 or more percent unemployment. They can't get South Africans to milk cows, they get Zimbabweans. Unemployment is a personal choice.
yeah. I was in Idaho a week ago and was talking to a person, said along this, she had a job. She hired somebody, they need to be to work 8 o'clock Monday morning. Monday morning they were there at 8 o'clock. Tuesday morning maybe 9:30. Wednesday morning they showed up at noon, and then you had to fire them. You know, it's it's a problem. Anybody else? Well, this is all I had. I really appreciate your input. I have more questions than I got answers, obviously. My crystal ball is fuzzy, but I appreciate your input and insights, and thank you very much for your time. Okay, and there's contact information if you'd like to. If you have solutions, let me know.